It was a cold Monday morning in Lansing, Michigan. The sidewalk still wore a crust of old snow, and the air carried that sharp winter bite that made students tuck their chins into their jackets. No one paid much attention when Marcus Walker stepped through the front doors of Millstone High. No welcome, no curious glances, just another transfer kid halfway through the school year blending into the blur of lockers and footsteps. His backpack was frayed at the seams. His hoodie was worn thin. He moved with a kind of quiet that came from experience, not fear, just knowing when it's smarter to watch before speaking. Marcus had learned that back in Detroit, where staying invisible was often the safest way to get through the day. Inside his first period math class, a few students looked up when he walked in. A girl in the corner whispered behind her hand. The teacher gave him a nod, pointed to a desk near the back, and went right on with the lesson. No introductions, no questions. Just a hush that settled around him like an old coat. But Marcus didn't mind. He was used to silence. In fact, he'd come to trust it. He didn't wear anything flashy, didn't try to impress. His uncle called it moving invisible, a survival skill you picked up in certain parts of the city. In places where being noticed could land you in trouble, attention wasn't something you sought. It was something you dodged. But Millstone High wasn't like Detroit. The kids here wore name brand everything. Their sneakers gleamed, their haircuts looked like appointments, and they walked like they owned the hallways. Marcus noticed the glances at his shoes, his hoodie, the way he carried himself. It wasn't hatred, just that quiet, dismissive kind of judgment. By his third day, he was eating alone in the cafeteria. Tray of spaghetti, a banana, and a small carton of chocolate milk. He sat near the back where no one talked and no one bothered. He chewed slow, listening to the noise of the room, trying to figure out the rhythms of this new place. Then a voice cut through the din. "Yo, what is that? You bring that from home or something?" Marcus looked up. A tall white kid in a varsity jacket stood smirking a few feet away. That was Chase Simmons, football co-captain, tight end, and unofficial king of the junior class. Two of his friends stood beside him, grinning like the punchline was already told. Marcus didn't answer. Chase leaned closer. "Man's eating like it's the Great Depression." Some kids nearby laughed. Not all, but enough. Marcus didn't react. He picked up his milk, stood, and said quietly, "I'm done." No fight, no scene, just a quiet retreat to the hallway. But sometimes the smallest moment, the kind most folks forget before the next bell, starts something you can't walk away from. And for Marcus, that moment in the cafeteria would be the first ripple in a storm he never asked for. By Friday, Marcus Walker's name had started floating around the Millstone High locker rooms. It wasn't the usual gossip. It came in the form of sideways glances and hushed exchanges behind closed lockers. The new kid's got an attitude, someone muttered near the weight room. He just stares. Doesn't talk, another added, as if being quiet was some kind of crime. What really got under Chase Simmons' skin wasn't anything Marcus said or did. It was the way he didn't react. No flinch when he was mocked in the cafeteria. No comeback. Just stood, gathered his things, and walked away like none of it mattered. And to Chase, that silence felt like disrespect. By gym class that afternoon, the fuse was lit. The coach paired up students for basketball drills, barking names like roll call. Marcus and Chase ended up face to face. When Chase tossed the ball, it came at Marcus a little too hard, smacking against his chest. Marcus caught it calm as ever. "Come on, Walker," Chase said, grinning wide. "Let's see what you got." Marcus bounced the ball once, then again. "We just passing, right?" "Yeah," Chase said, shifting his stance like he was just being casual. But Marcus's return pass landed solid and sharp right to the chest. It echoed. Chase blinked. A few of the other boys chuckled under their breath. "Dang," someone muttered. Chase forced a smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. That was the moment he decided he didn't like Marcus. And what started as petty snickers became something darker. Snide remarks in the hallway, gum stuck in Marcus's locker, a shove near the vending machines between periods. Still, Marcus never took the bait, never raised his voice, never snitched. But in a place like Millstone, silence was gasoline, and Chase had a lighter. At lunch, Chase turned the cafeteria into a stage. "You from Detroit, right?" he shouted from his table loud enough for the room to hear. "You bring your bulletproof vest or leave it at home." Some kids laughed. Others looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Marcus kept his eyes on his sandwich. "He might actually be crazy," one of Chase's buddies said, nudging him. "Doesn't even blink." "He's not crazy," Chase replied, voice raised just enough to carry. "He's just another hood story waiting to happen." That one stung. Marcus felt it hit. And when the bell rang, he walked a little faster to the bus stop. He'd seen how these things escalated. He'd lived it before, but this time felt different, personal. That night back at home, Uncle Ray noticed the tension in Marcus's jaw. "You holding something back?" he asked gently, setting down his coffee. Marcus gave a slow nod. "Trying to." Uncle Ray looked at him for a moment long and thoughtful. "Sometimes holding back is harder than swinging. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're not there to teach anybody a lesson. You're there to graduate, build something." "I know." Ray leaned back, eyes steady. "But if someone backs you into a corner, you don't let them walk over you either." Marcus didn't respond. He didn't have to. By the following week, the rumors had shifted. Now people whispered that Marcus had a record, that he got kicked out of his last school for fighting, that he once broke a teacher's nose in 8th grade. None of it true, but truth didn't matter much in the hallways of Millstone. In history class, Chase leaned over his desk and asked, "You ever seen a real fight?" Marcus didn't turn around. "I mean up close," Chase pressed. "Not on TV, blood on the floor kind." "Still not looking," Marcus said quietly. "Yeah." Chase smirked. "Is that a threat?" "No." Marcus finally turned, locking eyes. It's a warning." That smile on Chase's face slipped just a little. The next day, Chase made his move. Marcus had his headphones in, walking toward the back parking lot where the late buses lined up. The last bell had rung and most students were pouring out the front. But Chase and two of his friends, Logan and Tyler, waited behind the gym near the dumpsters just out of sight. They had that fake casual posture, hands in their pockets, like they were just killing time. Marcus spotted them and kept walking, backpack over one shoulder. "Hey," Chase called out. Marcus stopped about 10 feet away. "What?" he asked flatly. "You think you're better than everyone, walking around like you don't hear people talking?" "I didn't come here for you." Chase stepped closer. "You didn't come here at all. You got dropped here." Marcus narrowed his eyes. "What, do you want Logan moved to the side?" Tyler leaned back, chewing gum like this was all just some joke. "I want to know what makes you so special," Chase said. "Sitting by yourself, staring like you're above us. I'm just minding my business." "No, you're disrespecting mine." Marcus squared up, voice low and steady. "You got something to prove, prove it." That's when Logan lunged, a shove to the chest, sloppy wild. Marcus didn't move. "Back up," he warned. Chase laughed. "Go on, Logan." Logan swung again, harder this time, but Marcus stepped in close, twisted, and swept Logan's legs clean out from under him. The smack of Logan hitting the pavement echoed. Tyler flinched. "Yo, chill, man." Chase stepped in, trying to use his size. But Marcus was faster. He ducked under the punch, pivoted, and dropped an elbow into Chase's ribs. Controlled. Precise. Just enough to take the air out of him. Tyler froze. Logan groaned on the ground. It was over in less than 15 seconds. Marcus didn't gloat, didn't say a word, just stood there, calm and steady. That's when Mr. Langford, the assistant principal, rounded the corner. "What's going on here?" he asked sharply. Chase scrambled to his feet, pointing. "He jumped us. He's crazy." Marcus shook his head. "I didn't do nothing. They came at me." Langford looked from one to the other. No blood, no bruises, just tension in the air, and three boys trying not to look shaken. "Come with me," he said. They walked to the office in silence. In the waiting room, Chase muttered under his breath, "He's done, he's dead." Marcus didn't even glance his way. Inside the principal's office, Mr. Langford gave Marcus a long, searching look. Want to tell me what happened? Marcus told the truth straightforward. No flair, no lies. Langford listened, then leaned back in his chair. You're lucky no one's bleeding. I didn't start it, Marcus said quietly. Langford sighed. Doesn't matter who starts it. What matters is who finishes it. Marcus stared at the edge of the desk. Then maybe you should talk to the ones who never tried to stop it. That gave the man pause. Just for a second. But when the dust settles and a teacher shows up, the one who walked away calm and still standing isn't always seen as the one in the right, especially not in a place like this. By Monday morning, the whole school knew Marcus Walker wasn't just the quiet new kid anymore. Now, he was something else entirely. That Sunday night, a photo popped up online, blurry dark and taken from just behind the gym near the dumpsters. The caption read, "He thinks he's in a movie." Cared yet, it had been posted from a burner account, but everyone knew it came from Chase Simmons. The comments rolled in fast. Yo, he dropped Logan like a sack of bricks. Don't mess with that dude. Nah, man, something's off with him. Why he even here if he's gonna act like that? Marcus read every word. Not once, not twice, but enough times for something to tighten in his chest. Not from guilt. He wasn't ashamed of what he'd done. He had tried to walk away, tried to warn them. But now the story wasn't his anymore. It had been taken, twisted, and reposted for clicks and whispers. The next morning, Marcus walked through the school's front doors and saw something new. Two security officers posted near the main entrance. That hadn't been the case last week. Their presence wasn't loud, but it was visible, and it changed the air, made it feel like someone had declared danger without saying a word. During homeroom, the principal's voice came through the intercom, sharp and steady. All students involved in last week's altercation are currently under review. A formal disciplinary hearing will be held this Thursday. Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't look around. He just kept his eyes forward. A hearing, now they were making it official. And the storm, it hadn't passed. Not even close. Chase Simmons wasn't used to losing, not on the football field, not in class, and definitely not in front of a crowd. That brief scuffle behind the gym had left more than bruised ribs, it had bruised his pride. And pride like his didn't take kindly to being dented. So he did what folks like him sometimes do when they feel their grip slipping. He lied. It started slow, quiet words to teachers, mutters in the staff lounge. I don't feel safe around Marcus, he'd say. He's got a temper. I heard he's been in fights before. Then the rumors picked up speed. Marcus had been expelled from 2 schools before Millstone. He once broke someone's nose in middle school. He carried a knife in his backpack. None of it true, not a word of it, but no one really checked. They just repeated it. The video Chase posted didn't help. Grainy and short, it cut off right before Logan made the first move. In those few clipped seconds, Marcus looked like the aggressor. Calm, controlled, dangerous. Chase added text in big bold letters. Watch how he moves. That's not normal. Hashtags followed hashtag Millstone. Threat and hashtag Napard shouldn't be here. The comments got darker. He's not like us. Bet he learned that in juvie. Spell him before something worse happens. Marcus saw everyone. He never replied. Never posted a defense. But silence has a price. On Tuesday, the school called his mother. By Wednesday, the formal hearing had a time and a place. District Office Room 4B, Thursday morning. He had to appear with a parent or guardian. Uncle Ray took the day off work. The room was windowless and plain. A long rectangular table sat in the center. On one side, the principal, Mr. Langford, a board member, and the head of student discipline. On the other, Marcus' Uncle Ray, and a folder full of notes Ray had made Marcus write out the night before just in case the truth wasn't enough. Chase wasn't there. He didn't have to be. His story was already sitting in the room. Mr. Langford cleared his throat. We've received several concerns from students, faculty, and parents. Our job is to determine whether Marcus Walker poses a continued safety risk to the student body. Ray leaned forward. My nephew isn't a threat. He's trained in self-defense. He didn't go looking for a fight. He tried to walk away. He warned them. The board member pushed his glasses up his nose. Is it true he has combat training? Ray didn't blink. Yeah, but that don't mean violence. It means control. It means knowing when not to hit someone. One of the assistant principals spoke up. There's a video circulating. We don't see how the altercation starts. Of course you don't, Ray cut in calm but pointed. Because it's edited, a brief silence settled. Then Marcus spoke. They came after me. I didn't swing first. I didn't even want to be there. The board member tapped his pen against the folder. And yet we have a report stating you were involved in a physical confrontation. Marcus looked at him steady. So what should I have done? Let them beat me up. Nobody answered. Ray leaned back slowly. This ain't about a fight. It's about what you think he is. You see a big, quiet black boy who defended himself, and somehow he's the one under review. Mr. Langford shifted in his seat. The board member wrote something down, lips pressed thin. We'll need more time to decide, he said finally. Outside, Ray exhaled slow and deep. You did good, he told Marcus. Doesn't feel like it. They heard you, might not say it, but they did. That night, Marcus barely twitched his dinner. He sat on the back steps of their apartment, watching his breath curl in the cold. The air was quiet, but his mind wasn't. He kept asking himself the same question over and over. How can you do the right thing and still end up the one under fire? He didn't have an answer. Not yet. But deep down, he could feel the weight of the story slipping out of his hands again. And if he didn't find a way to hold on to it, someone else would keep telling it for him. Thursday morning arrived dressed in a gray sky and a sharp wind. Inside Millstone High, the mood had shifted. The whispers were quieter now, but the stares more certain. Marcus Walker wasn't just the new kid anymore. He was a name people said with weight, a rumor wrapped in sneakers. As he walked down the main hall, it felt like walking through fog. Students parted just enough to let him pass, some looking curious, others just wary. He wasn't a student anymore. Not really. He was a subject, a question mark, a warning. At lunch, he sat in his usual spot alone in the back corner of the cafeteria. The spaghetti was cold, the milk too warm. He chewed slowly, trying not to taste anything at all. Halfway through his apple, he noticed someone sliding into the seat across from him. A girl, pale skin, short auburn hair, big round glasses. Marcus knew her from a few classes. Always had a sketch pad in her lap, never raised her hand. Delaney Foster. She didn't say hello, just leaned in, voice low. I saw everything. Marcus blinked. What behind the gym? I was there, she said, eyes steady. Didn't mean to be. I was sketching the dumpsters for a photography project. I stayed hidden, but I saw what happened. He studied her, unsure. She kept her voice just above a whisper. You told them to back off. Logan swung first. You didn't want to fight. Why are you telling me this now? Marcus asked. Because if they expel you over a lie, then I'm just as guilty for not saying something. His eyes narrowed, cautious. You messing with me? No, she said gently but firmly. I already talked to the assistant principal. I'm going to the follow-up hearing. He sat back, unsure what to feel, relief, suspicion, maybe both. That night at home, he told Uncle Ray. She's going to speak up, Marcus said. Says she saw it all. Ray raised an eyebrow. You trust her? I don't know. But she sounded serious. Ray nodded slowly, thoughtful. Sometimes the right folks stay quiet until the price of silence gets too high. Friday's hearing felt different from the one earlier in the week. The air in the room was tighter but not as heavy. There was something just beneath the surface now, possibility. Delaney sat at the far end of the long table sketch pad, resting on her lap like armor. Her voice shook at first, but her words were clear. They cornered him. 3-on-1, she said. Logan threw the first punch. Marcus didn't want to fight. He told them more than once to back off. The room stilled. Even Mr. Langford looked up from his notes. The board member narrowed his eyes. And you didn't come forward until now. Delaney shook her head. I was scared. She paused and added, but that's not a good excuse. Her voice cracked just slightly, but she kept going, honest. Bear. 15 minutes later, they dismissed the room. Marcus and Ray stepped out into the parking lot together, the wind cutting across the concrete in sharp gusts. She didn't have to do that, Marcus said. No, Ray agreed, but she did. The official decision came the next morning in a plain email from the district. Marcus Walker is not subject to disciplinary action. The school acknowledges evidence showing he acted in self-defense. Ray printed the letter and pinned it to the fridge like a trophy, but Marcus didn't feel like celebrating. Not exactly, because even when the hearing ended, something else still lingered. At school the following week, the hallways were quieter, not peaceful, just quiet. The jokes stopped, the shoves, even the stares softened into sideways glances, but there was no real warmth in it. Chase didn't say a word, didn't look Marcus's way. Logan kept his head down and avoided eye contact. Tyler started eating at a different lunch table. In a school where everybody always seemed to know everybody's business, no one said a thing. One afternoon, while Marcus was pulling books from his locker, Delaney walked past. She didn't stop, didn't speak, just raised a hand in a small, quiet wave. Marcus nodded back, barely a smile on his face. It didn't need to be anything more. Sometimes silence could mean respect too. But as the week unfolded, Marcus started noticing other things. Subtle changes. A couple of freshmen standing up for a kid getting mocked near the gym doors. A teacher who actually stepped in when someone made a slick comment in class. Nothing big, just flickers, ripples. The kind of things that only happen when somebody dares to speak up first. Still, despite the decision and the changes, Marcus carried more than a cleared name. He carried the weight of knowing how fast truth can be twisted, how quick people are to judge when they don't take the time to ask. He carried the memory of that hearing, the knot in his stomach, as adults debated whether he belonged. He knew now that surviving wasn't the same as healing. And healing, that would take something more. That Friday, as the last bell of the semester echoed through the halls, backpacks were zipped, lockers slammed shut, and winter break plans buzzed like static. But Marcus didn't rush. He stood at his locker longer than usual, letting the crowd pass him by. The storm was over. The rumors were quiet, but peace, that was still a few steps away. And maybe, just maybe, he was ready to take them. The first snowfall of December dusted the streets of Lansing like powdered sugar on a quiet pie. It was the kind of cold that snuck into your coat collar and settled in your bones, and at Millstone High, the tension had its own kind of chill. Though the school board had cleared Marcus Walker's name, the halls hadn't quite followed suit. He wasn't being pushed or mocked anymore, but the way people looked at him, that hadn't gone away. Like he was made of glass and fire at the same time. Students stepped aside when he walked past, not out of respect, out of caution. Even teachers didn't quite know what to do with him now. Coach Rollins had him shadow drills during gym. No partner, no contact. Just movement, as if Marcus needed space more than instruction. He didn't argue, just kept to himself like always. What stuck with Marcus more than anything was the quiet. The way it filled in the cracks between every step, every word not said. A silence that didn't feel safe anymore but lonely. That afternoon, as he walked the long route home past the corner store and down an alley he hadn't used since his first week at Millstone, he tried to shake the weight sitting behind his ribs. The fight, the hearing, the rumors, all of it had passed like a storm, but something was still wet and cold in his chest. At home, Uncle Ray sat watching a replay of an old UFC bout. Legs kicked up a plate of toast in his lap. Rough day, he asked as Marcus dropped his backpack by the door. Marcus flopped onto the couch with a sigh. People act different now. Ray muted the TV and turned toward him. You thought they'd be grateful. No, Marcus said, staring at the floor. I just didn't think they'd look at me like I'm dangerous. Ray's face softened. He reached for the remote, clicked off the screen. Listen to me, son. When you defend yourself and when folks see strength, and strength scares the weak, especially the loud ones. I didn't even go hard, Marcus muttered. I held back. Ray nodded slowly. I know you did, but they don't care because you exposed something in that boy, something he ain't ready to live with. Marcus didn't reply. Just let the words settle into the room like dust. What do you do after the storm clears, but the sky still hangs heavy? On Monday, Miss Curtis, his English teacher, asked him to stay after class. We're just checking in on students, she said, too cheerful, making sure the transition's going okay. Marcus sat stiffly. You ever feel angry? She asked, tilting her head. He raised an eyebrow. Why? No reason, just checking. He stood up before she could finish whatever came next. The hallway felt colder than outside. But then came Thursday morning. Marcus stepped into school like always, quiet, deliberate, invisible. But by lunch, he noticed the air was different. Not just cold, expectant. His table in the back was empty, same as always. But as he sat down, a presence stirred across from him. Delaney Foster, same short auburn hair, same round glasses, sketch pad tucked against her side. She didn't offer a greeting, just met his eyes. I'm coming to the hearing, she said softly. He blinked. I thought it was done. They're doing a follow-up, she explained. Because of the video, because Chase still has people believing you attacked him. He hesitated. You don't have to. I do, she cut in. I already gave them my statement. I told them what I saw, but I'll say it again, in person. He stared at her for a long moment. Why now? Because the truth doesn't mean much unless someone's willing to say it out loud. Marcus swallowed hard. He didn't have words for what that meant. Delaney stood. I'll see you Friday. The hearing was held in the same room, District Office Room 4B, but the mood was different now. The cold outside matched the cold inside, but this time Marcus had someone beside him who wasn't family. Delaney sat at the end of the table, hands clasped tightly in her lap. They surrounded him, she said. It was 3 against 1. Her voice trembled at the edges, but her eyes never left the board members. He tried to walk away. Logan shoved him. Marcus warned them. He didn't want to fight. The room was still. One of the board members leaned forward. And why didn't you report this earlier? I was scared, Delaney said. But that's not a good excuse. Her voice caught just barely, but she steadied herself. I saw the truth, and I'm here to say it. 15 minutes later, they were dismissed again. Marcus and Ray stepped out into the cold. She didn't have to do that, Marcus said softly, hands buried in his coat pockets. Ray exhaled. No, but she chose to. The email came early the next morning. Simple, direct. The school acknowledges Delaney Foster's eyewitness account. Marcus Walker acted in self-defense. No further disciplinary action will be taken. Ray printed it out and stuck it back on the fridge right next to the first one. But even though the paper said no action, Marcus knew the story didn't end there. At school, the silence changed again. Not gone, but different. Some kids actually nodded when they passed. Others gave space, but without the side glances. Chase never looked at him. Logan stayed quiet. Tyler moved lunch tables again. None of them apologized, but they didn't challenge him anymore either, and that for now was enough. The storm had been loud, but sometimes the quiet that comes after speaks even louder. The week after the second hearing passed with a strange kind of quiet. It wasn't peace, not really, but it was something less sharp than the weeks before. Like the wind had shifted directions, still cold, still strong, but no longer biting at Marcus Walker's heels every step he took. The weight hadn't lifted, but at least it wasn't growing heavier. Chase Simmons avoided him completely now. Not a glance in the hallway, not a word during practice or passing periods. just silence. Logan was back in class, but he didn't make eye contact. He kept his hood up most days and sat a little straighter whenever Marcus walked in. As for Tyler, he'd migrated to a new lunch table entirely one farther from the window, closer to the vending machines. The three of them, once so loud and bold behind the gym, had scattered like leaves in a breeze. No one said anything, but the air was different. One morning, as Marcus stood at his locker pulling out a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, Delaney Foster passed by. She didn't stop, just lifted her hand in a quiet wave. Marcus nodded back, just a flick of acknowledgement. It didn't need more than that. And maybe for the first time since he'd stepped into Millstone High, he didn't feel completely alone. Little things began to shift in the halls. A teacher stepped in one afternoon when a senior made a crude joke at a sophomore's expense. Nothing dramatic, just a sharp, clear, "That's enough." And it worked. Marcus caught a glimpse of two freshmen near the gym, standing in front of another student who was being teased about his clothes. The older kid backed off without much of a fight. Small moment. But it stayed with him. It wasn't a revolution, but it was a ripple. And Marcus knew better than anyone how far a ripple could reach if it kept moving. Still, healing didn't come with applause. That Thursday, as the last bell of the semester rang out and the school spilled into the hallways like a rushing stream, Marcus lingered at his locker. He didn't rush to beat the crowd. He just stood there, hands resting on the cool metal, letting the current of bodies and laughter pass him by. No one shoved him. No one called him names, but no one came over either. The fight was over, the hearings done. But peace was something else entirely, something earned in quieter ways. As Marcus was heading for the doors, Miss Curtis caught up with him. "Hey, Marcus," she called just above the din. "Hold up a sec." He turned. "We're having a student-led assembly tomorrow. Kind of a year-end thing." He waited, unsure why she was telling him. "One of the speakers dropped out, and a few of us, well, we thought maybe you'd consider saying something." He blinked. "Me like?" On stage, she smiled soft but hopeful. "Only if you want to. I just think people need to hear from you. Not the version they have been whispering about, but the real you." He didn't answer, just gave a small nod and turned to leave. That night, Marcus sat on the floor of his room, legs crossed, a blank notepad resting in his lap. The pen in his hand felt heavy, awkward, like it didn't know what it was supposed to write. He stared at the page for nearly an hour. Then finally he scribbled one sentence across the top. "I didn't ask to be here, but I'm not going anywhere either." He underlined it once, then set the pen down. The next morning, the school auditorium buzzed with restless energy. Students shuffled in, talking over one another, backpacks tossed at their feet. The lights dimmed as teachers filed along the walls, arms folded, eyes watchful. When Marcus's name was called, the buzz quieted a little, just enough. He walked to the mic slowly, no paper in his hands. Just steady steps, in a heart that hadn't stopped beating fast since he woke up. He took a breath and looked out at the sea of faces. "I've been called a lot of things since I got here," he began. Voice clear but low. Quiet, weird, dangerous. A few uneasy laughs rippled through the crowd. "Some of y'all still don't know what to make of me." He paused. "I didn't come here to fight anybody. I came here to finish high school. I wanted what everyone else wants, to get through my day without drama." The silence deepened. People were listening now. I'm not going to stand up here and say I'm perfect. I've made mistakes. I've been mad. I've been hurt. But if the only story you know about me is the one someone else told, then you never knew me at all. He let that sit. I'm not from here. I'm from a place where keeping your head down is how you stay alive, where you learn when to speak and when to stay quiet. He glanced at the teachers in the back. Some of them nodded. But here I've learned that sometimes silence just makes people talk louder. He looked out over the crowd. I'm grateful for the ones who listened and the ones who didn't. I'm still here. You didn't scare me off. From somewhere near the middle row, Delaney sat quietly. She didn't wave, Didn't smile, just listened. Marcus's voice dropped a little softer now. So maybe next time, before you laugh at someone or push them or post something that ain't true, maybe try asking them their name. Maybe ask where they've been, what they've carried. He stepped back from the mic. The room was still. Then a single clap broke the silence. Then another and another until it rolled into something steady, not wild, not loud, but real. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes all it takes is one voice finally heard. The sun hung low over Millstone High as students poured out of the building, their laughter trailing behind them like footprints in the air. Winter break had finally arrived. Coats zipped, backpacks thumped, and plans filled the hallways. But Marcus Walker didn't move with the crowd. He stayed by his locker watching. The assembly was over. His words had been heard. Maybe not by everyone, but by enough. He hadn't expected applause. But when it came slow, real and steady, it cracked something open in the walls around him. Not broken down all the way. Not yet, but enough to let some light in. As he crossed the courtyard, a younger boy, probably a freshman, stepped into his path. Nervous, but curious. "You really trained to fight," the boy asked, clutching his books like armor. Marcus gave a quiet shrug. "I trained to stay ready." The boy hesitated, then asked, "Could you teach me?" Marcus looked at him. Really looked, not at the posture or the nervous energy, but the question behind the words. This wasn't about fists, it was about fear, about not wanting to feel small anymore. "You sure you want to learn?" Marcus asked. "It's not about hurting people." The boy nodded. "I just don't want to be scared all the time." Marcus smiled just barely. "All right then. First lesson." The boy waited. "Stand tall," Marcus said, "even when it feels easier to shrink." And together they walked toward the exit gate, not as teacher and student, just two kids trying to carry themselves forward, step by step. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought with fists. They are fought in silence, in patience, in the choice not to strike when you've been pushed. Marcus didn't win by proving he was the strongest. He won by staying true to who he was, even when the world tried to rewrite his story. It's easy to judge what we don't understand, but the real strength is in pausing long enough to ask, to listen, and to see the full human being behind the rumors. And for those who feel like outsiders, whether for how you look, where you're from, or the quiet way you move through the world, this story is a reminder you belong, even when others don't see it yet. If this story meant something to you, if it stirred something quiet and true, I'd be honored to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to leave a comment or share your reflections. And if you'd like more stories like this, real human and worth sitting with, you're warmly invited to subscribe. No pressure, just stories that matter told with care. Thanks for walking through this one with me.